Good morning. How we doing? It's Monday. What's going on? We got Warriors game tonight, but there's also some news with the 49ers line. I've had a busy morning. Let me listen to this. I'm multitasking at its finest. I'm in between going to see a patient. I just came back from Palo Alto. I had some patients to see there. The director over there was like, I need some help. And I always help them out when I can. They had like 12 admissions at their facilities. So I came in, evaluated a few patients after I dropped my daughter to school, drove here. Now I'm live with you guys. We're going to talk about this news, and then I got to go see 2 new patients from my home health company, then get my daughter, then come back, and then finish all my paperwork. What a busy day. That's the life and times of your boy. Working 2 places, doing the social media, all that stuff. It's fun time, but it keeps me rolling. Sometimes I'm exhausted, but it is what it is. How are we feeling? The 49ers brought in veteran wide receiver Gabe Davis today for a tryout. This news was trending yesterday. According to Coach Iayuk, he confirmed it. He had a source. And then today, Dave Lombardi confirmed that news as well. So Gabe Davis, veteran wide receiver, is at the 49ers facility today going for a tryout. Now, people are saying, well, didn't they draft 2 wide receivers? It doesn't hurt to have a veteran depth, right? You got Jennings. You got Ricky Pearsall, who expected to take a big leap. And you got Jacob Cowing. Brandon Iayuk is on the mend. We don't know when he's coming back. And then you have 2 rookie wide receivers, and then a bunch of undrafted guys and practice squad guys. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? But it doesn't hurt to have a wide receiver depth. So how are we feeling? What do you guys think? Gabe Davis to the Niners, should they get him? This is what Coach Iayuk said. He said, he's plugged in. He had a source. And also, according to Coach Iayuk on his tweet, he says, the guy who told me about it yesterday told me this morning that Gabe is still recovering from knee surgery and just recently started his rehab, but will be good to go for the start of the season. So we got to temper our expectations. Now, people, they got to realize, he's a veteran. He's been on the Bills. He's been on the Jaguars. But according to what the source of this news is right now, Gabe Davis, the veteran wide receiver, he's recovering from knee surgery. So he's doing rehab. I don't know what the knee surgery is, but this is according to the source that told Coach Iayuk this news. So even if they sign Gabe Davis, he's still a guy that has to get healthy and join the team. So he kind of fits the 49ers team, right? It's a bunch of injured players. That's how it goes. But I wouldn't hate the move. You get him for a veteran minimum or a smaller contract. Now I know the 49ers have been trying to get younger and go through the draft, and they have. They drafted, Jordan Watkins, and then the 7th round receiver out of Montana. But he's more of a punt returner. And Jordan Watkins, how much can he contribute right away? You got a veteran like Gabe Davis. He could at least come in and probably learn the system pretty quick and adapt. But it doesn't hurt to have more depth for the 49ers at wide receiver. They also signed Demarcus Robinson this offseason, right? He's now number 5 with the 49ers. He changed his number. He was on the Rams before. But the thing about Robinson is he may be facing a DUI suspension. We don't know. There's no exact ruling. Last week, some people were speculating that he's officially been, suspended, but he hasn't. There's a chance that he gets suspended, right? Mayoko was talking about this about a month ago, that there's a chance that he could get suspended for 3 games. The NFL is still deciding whether they're going to do that or not. So if Robinson gets suspended, Gabe Davis can take that veteran role for a few games. And then, of course, Jawan Jennings, who this week, the trending story for Jawan Jennings is he thinks he could be the number 1 receiver. He believes in himself. Clay Kubiak says, hey, he's coming in as the top dog with Brandon Iayuk. And this weekend, Jawan Jennings not tweeted, but he posted on his Instagram story. He says, I'm building for the top. Building for the top. So to me, it means, hey, he's trying to be the top of the wide receiver pecking order, or he's trying to be towards the top of the league in wide receivers. He's in a contract season, basically. So Jawan Jennings is trying to build towards being a top flight wide receiver. So that's where we stand with the wide receiver room. Like, yeah, Jennings is great. He needs some help out there. Ricky Pearsall, I think there's, high expectations. I think he can step up and be better than he did last year, right? His rookie season. And he had the unfortunate adversity at the beginning of the season getting shot. But I think Ricky can come in and be a very good wide receiver too. But still, you still need more weapons. We all know George Kittle is there, and he's expected to be, George Kittle. But it doesn't hurt to add weapons to the team. So I wouldn't hate Gabe Davis. I wouldn't think he's going to sit there and get you like 1,000 yards receiving, anything like that. But he could give you a good 500 yards, 600 yards. couple touchdowns here, maybe at best. So it's a decent signing, and I wouldn't hate it. He's a good veteran for the locker room. But again, you got to temper your expectations a little bit because he is injured, according to the source here. So let's take a look at some of these comments. If he can get his shit together, he's a solid receiver, says David. Yeah, if he can get his shit together, he's a solid receiver. And I mean, again, the Niners have some depth here, so it's not like he has to be the top guy. He could be good depth. Might actually be a wide receiver 3 if you really look at it, because I don't know where they're standing at Cowing. I know I expect Cowing to take a bigger leap this year, but he's still, having to learn and develop and come into camp and show that he's that guy at practice. So there might be a little bit of a competition between him and, DeMarcus and maybe potentially Gabe Davis and, Jordan Watkins. So the 49ers at the end of the day are just trying to get as much depth and talent on their roster as possible. And that's not a bad thing. Gabe Davis, a.k.a. 2 catches, 2 touchdowns against Kansas City in the playoffs. I'll take it if you can do that. What's good, Greedy? Steven says, if we sign Davis, is he wide receiver 2? I'd say more wide receiver 3 because, again, you got Jennings. I expect Pearsall to be that wide receiver 2 right now, and then maybe Gabe Davis. But, again, Demarcus Robinson's there. If he's not suspended, where does he rotate in that? Cowing, right? And then he drafted Jordan Watkins. But I'd say wide receiver 3 with some upside there to maybe, do a little bit more than maybe some might expect. But also, they're trying to hold the fort down until Brandon Iayuk gets back. Because Brandon Iayuk is still a very good receiver. I know a lot of people are soured on him. Like, it's crazy. When I mention Brandon Iayuk, or if anybody posts about Brandon Iayuk, nobody likes him. Nobody talks about Brandon Iayuk. And it's kind of like, dang, man, people have soured on him. And I can understand why, right? The contract situation was a mess, absolute mess. And then he came in and he didn't look good and he was a little rusty, right? Because the holdout and everything. And then he got injured. And now people are like, well, he's never going to be the same receiver, which I think is not a bad take. I mean, coming off an ACL tear that he had with also meniscus and MCL, the takes of people saying that he's going to not be the same is very realistic. So at the end of the day, yeah, I think they're trying to hold the fort down until Brandon Iayuk comes back. But if he's healthy and he has his shit together, if Brandon Iayuk can be Brandon Iayuk, he's a very good receiver. If he can kind of get back to where he was before the injury, he's a very good receiver. And I think that they're just trying to make sure they hold it down and get Brandon Iayuk back as healthy as they can. Because if he can get back to pre-injury Brandon Iayuk, pre-contract Brandon Iayuk, he was so good, man. People forget. People hate on him. And I get it. It's rightfully so. A lot of people are underestimating him, and I don't blame them. I'm not going to sit here and say, I can't believe you're doing that to Brandon Iayuk. I do too. I don't know if he's going to be the same. I'm a PT. That's a rough injury to come back from. So those takes are very valid and justified. But if he can become Brandon Iayuk again, I think that's a hell of a receiver to have. And then the wide receiver room's fantastic. And we saw what Jennings did last year as a wide receiver 1. So, and he's hungry. He's motivated to be the top guy and to get paid. So honestly, it's kind of a good situation to be in right now. The 49ers are in good place. So, Greedy says they need to pay JJ now so we don't have a rerun of BA. Yeah, I know. I think they should pay him as early as they can, kind of like they did with Diamond Lenore. I don't know if Jennings is going to be like a BA situation where he holds out, but he'll at least test the market if he's smart. Next season, if they don't pay him this season in the season, and he's a free agent next year, I mean, and he has another year like last year, I think he's capable of 75 to 80 catches, 1,000 to 1,200 yards, 6 to 8 touchdowns. That's pretty much what he did last year. He missed 3 games, or he missed 2 games. He missed some time. I think he got injured in one, and he missed 2 games. And he played 15 total games, and he had 975 yards. He was so close to 1,000. And then he had, 77 catches. I think he had 6 or 8 touchdowns. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. But he had a very good season. And he was very close to 1,200 yards if you project it out, throughout a season. So I think Brandon Iayuk, definitely could be that guy. But Jawan Jennings is showing you that he could be that guy. So if they don't sign him in this season, yeah, he can get paid pretty nifty this coming up offseason in 2026. But also, he's not just a guy that's going to catch the ball and things like that. He moves the chains. He gets first downs, right? He gets touchdowns. He's a big clutch guy. When you need a big catch, he's able to do it. He's very confident in himself, and he's also a very gritty guy. He's going to go out there and get in the mind of cornerbacks and defensive backs, and he doesn't leave anything on the field. He gives it 110%, and he's damn good at blocking. So he does everything you need at a wide receiver and more, and he's definitely going to get paid a lot of money. So if the 49ers don't sign him in the middle of the season, they could potentially lose him next offseason. But would he be loyal to the team that gave him a chance? 7th-round pick, and now he's probably their top, not even probably, he's their top receiver right now. So we'll see. But I don't expect him to be like a holdout type guy and dramatic, you know what I mean? But you never know. You never know. I don't see him being like a dramatic type guy, if that makes sense. So David says the BA situation was the same as when Debo was getting his contract extension. Very similar. A lot of similar parallels, you know. Steven says, especially Iayuk is getting $30 million per year if he wants that, and he's got to step up after coming out of massive injuries. Yeah, man, if he wants to keep earning that money and not get a restructure or something, got to definitely earn that money. And, you know, a lot of people, I think, also are sour on BA, like we just talked about, because of the fact that he's getting paid $30 million. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. I mean, he definitely showcased why he was going to get that money beforehand, before the injury. A lot of people might say they overpaid, but that's the market, and sometimes you overpay. But I think if he could get back to that pre-injury status, he can be that 30 million wide receiver. But it's a big if, 100%. Adrien Peterson had a similar injuries as Iayuk, and then he had then huge comeback player. Yeah, well, Adrien Peterson, yeah, he blew his ACL. He came back and he was unbelievable. Adrien Peterson, a specimen. That guy is, when they say built different, Adrien Peterson definitely is built different. I couldn't believe he came back. It's like he didn't miss a beat. So Brandon Iayuk better go figure out what Adrien Peterson did and train with him or something. Greedy says, what's your feel on the UDFA wideout from Nebraska? Big guy. I like his size. He has talent, a little bit slower, but he's the big body target. I think he could be something. But again, I think he's still very raw and undeveloped, and he's a guy that's probably going to hit the practice squad and then go from there. But I like his potential. I think he has definitely, you know, a higher ceiling. But, you know, he's a guy that fell in the draft status. You know, he wasn't consistent with his, you know, catching and everything. And also, again, speed is kind of a factor there. But I think he has talent. I mean, we'll see. Niners usually do good at undrafted players, and they put them on the practice squad and they develop and go from there. But we'll see how these undrafted guy goes. I feel like they did a good job with the undrafted players this season. They always do. The 49ers always end up getting like a handful of undrafted players, and then they become depth pieces or sometimes starters on this team. So I'm going to be very optimistic on all their undrafted guys, because they've given us a lot of reason to be optimistic over the years. So he's a 4.4 guy. I don't know. They said 4.4, but he looked a little slow to me. But what do I know? 4.4, that's pretty quick if he truly runs a 4.4. But he seemed, I don't know. He didn't seem all that fast from games I've seen him. But yeah, maybe he's faster than I thought. Yeah, he does run a 4.4. But I also heard that, you know, he's not consistent with his catching ability from there. But I mean, he looks like he's a big, tall guy that can sky up and get the ball. And Niners need those types of targets. So possession receiver, yeah, that's kind of what more it seems like. He's kind of like a Jawan Jennings type guy when he first came into the league, right? Jawan Jennings was that possession guy, but now look at Jawan Jennings now. Look at the guy. He's unbelievable. The guy's unbelievable. So the wide receiver they're looking at now has more touchdowns than BA, and they're at the same age, same draft. Yeah. And they also have an knee injury, but I don't think Gabe Davis is as significant as BA's. But Gabe's a good talent. He's a good veteran. He's a good guy that could come in and, like they said earlier in the comments, if he is kind of where he needs to be, if he has his stuff together, he could be a very good, viable option for the 49ers. But again, they have a lot of depth now with Demarcus Robinson and Jennings and Cowling and Jordan Watkins and, you know, Ricky Pearsall. So they have depth. And again, we don't know if Robinson's going to get the suspension or not. So this makes sense if he does get suspended and you have another veteran to just slide right in where Demarcus Robinson was going to be. So 40-inch vert. Okay, now that's pretty good. 40-inch vert. The guy's pretty athletic, man. Good. That's a good possession. Good. Big target. Throw it up to him. Let him go get it. Julius Callaway says, can you give a prediction on when Purdy extension gets done? Yeah, my prediction is the start of phase 2 of OTAs. It is like May. I can't remember the top of the date. It's like in May 22nd or 27th, somewhere around there. That the last week or so of May, last week or two of May, I think it's going to get done before June. June is like mandatory training camp. I think they'll have it done on that last phase of OTAs, and then mandatory training camp. He's already going to be signed and locked in, and good go from there. Worst case, it's going to be June, but I feel like Purdy's going to get paid in a week or two, about 2 weeks. So we'll see. Kyle says the 49ers do well with the UDFAs. They do a great job. I mean, you go through the list, and they've had a lot of players that Evan Anderson, right? Their defensive lineman, who's probably going to be a big part of this rotation. He was undrafted last year. They gave him guaranteed money, and now he's a good rotationary player, and he's probably going to be a very big part of this defense. You know, he was good last year. We've seen some of the running backs, right, over the years, Matt Breida and you know, et cetera, Jordan Mason, right? A lot of those undrafted running backs they take end up becoming starters. So we'll see how the rest of this goes. But I'm sure at least one or two of those undrafted guys are going to become potential, at least depth players on this roster, like important depth players. But I could see maybe one or two of them become starters down the line. That's just the 49ers, man. They know how to develop talent, and, you know, they have their little farm system, basically. So we'll see. Which position do I think the Niners develop better between defensive line and linebacker? I'll say linebacker. I mean, look at over the years. You got, right, Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis. Those are the great players, you know, good examples. There was other ones, but for sure those two. And then after that, you know, you have Fred Warner, Aziz Al-Shahir, can't pronounce today, and Dre Greenlaw, of course, right, among others. So I think they've done a really good job of defensive at the defensive position at linebacker, right? Johnny Holland, linebacker coach, he's been great over the years. He had D'Amico and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But defensive line, they've kind of been hit or miss because they've drafted a lot of defensive linemen. Look at the years: Robert Beal, Drake Jackson, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw. There's been a lot of busts. There's been some good players, don't get me wrong. And Chris Kasurek has developed a lot of guys that were kind of written off, and then they turned them around, right? You know, he's done that with Kerry Hyder, you know, and several other players that nobody really knew who they were, right? And then he made them pretty damn good, right? Arden Key, this guy was a massive bust. He comes to the Niners, and they made him get paid pretty damn good after he left us in free agency. So there's been a couple other examples, but I feel like D-line, they're okay, but I think linebacker, 100%, they're better at developing that talent. So which undrafted free agent tight end are we going to sign? I don't know, man. Tight end, they signed Ross Dwelly because they've been going after the bad tight ends in the draft. They didn't draft one this year. So I feel like they said, screw it, we'll just get Ross Dwelly back. So I don't know. Tight end, that's one position where they haven't been great other than George Kittle. And after that, they've just been striking out left and right. So your guess is as good as mine with the tight end position because they've had a lot of stinkers at tight end. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll see how, the Gabe Davis situation goes. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like it's a decent move. I wouldn't hate it if they signed him. He's a veteran. You can't use enough weapons. And hey, I'm sure there's other wide receivers, and people are going to say, oh my God, there's other guys. Why don't you go get them? The Niners have a certain plan they want to do this off season, right? They've been executing it, getting younger. They don't want too many older guys. And Gabe Davis isn't even that old compared to guys like Clowney, because there's a lot of people that want like Jadeveon Clowney out there. That guy's very much, at a senior citizen type player in the NFL. Those are the guys the 49ers are trying to avoid. Gabe Davis is still relatively, younger. And I don't think that's a bad move to make with a guy like Gabe Davis. So honestly, I wouldn't hate it. Now, if you're starting to get players that are 30, 33, 34, 35, that's when it's like, okay, man, you're just trying to get a little bit of juice out of this veteran, and he's going to be a nice locker room presence, but they're not going to help you on the field. So you got to stay relatively young, get guys that are still in their prime or close to their prime. And I feel like the 49ers are doing that this offseason. They signed a lot of, players that are not over the hill, But a lot of the players they signed are also special teams guys, and then they went heavy through the draft. Now, that's the only downfall. Like, I know a lot of people are very optimistic, and I'm pretty optimistic this offseason. I think we've seen the opponents. We're ready for the schedule this week, and I think a lot of us are thinking they're going to win 10 to 13 games. Now, the only downside of this offseason is they have a very young team, a very, unexperienced team throughout this, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Now, they're going to be good. They're going to be hungry. But at the same time, sometimes inexperience can cost you a game or two here. So hopefully these young guys can really learn and develop and, get a fire lit under them. But, you got to also understand that it will catch up with them. The toll is going to be tough on them. It's going to be a lot of burden, but I think they're all hungry to prove themselves. And a mixture of the veterans, they're also going to be ready to go. And, I think we all are expecting this team to win a lot of games, but temper your expectations just a little bit. You don't get too excited, but, young teams, they're going to be good. They're going to be fun, but there are going to be some growing pains. But I think overall it's going to be a great season, and I think we're going to at least make the playoffs for the very most. So we'll see. The vibes on the team are up, but we got John Weeks. Yeah, but he's a long snapper. You don't really need to be young to be a long snapper. You can be a whippersnapper to be a long snapper, right? You could be an old whippersnapper to be a long snapper. This guy is the best long snapper in the league. And according to the special teams coach, he's going to make Jake Moody better. So he was throwing a little shade at Tabor Pepper, is what basically I got out of it. Glory says Gabe can't catch. Well, he's going to have to learn how to catch someday for the 49ers if he does sign with us. But yeah, I know people are knocking him for his catching abilities, but he's not supposed to be a wide receiver 1. He's going to be a depth piece, a wide receiver 3 most likely. Again, you just got to hold. You just need to get some guys to hold it down until BA can come back. He can catch decently. I mean, you saw Debo last year. Debo was dropping catches left and right. So I feel like I don't think he could be any worse than what Debo was giving us last year. I think it's good for Debo to be gone. I loved him, but he needed a clean slate. Mentally, I don't think he was there. And sometimes, yeah, players may drop catches on a team and get labeled as a bad player or someone that can't catch. They go to a new team and they want to prove themselves, and sometimes they're a little bit more motivated. So we'll see. I think Gabe's not a bad signing. Again, it's a veteran guy. He's not expected to be the top flight guy. And sometimes those under the radar guys can become, pretty important to the team. Those role players are also important. So we'll see. Moody still sucks, says Ryan. 100%. He's needs to be gone. But hey, they don't want to take the L on this one. I still think by the end of the offseason, he'll be gone. But we'll see. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a good rest of your day. If there's any more news, we'll be live. We'll be back a little later. But big day in the Bay. Warriors, they have to win game 4. Let's pray for the Warriors tonight. Because if they win tonight, Steph might be back. He should be back for game 6. And then you got a 2-game series at that point. You win 6, you win 7, and it's a miracle. I believe in miracles. I hope you do. You guys have a good one. Hopefully the 49ers can get Gabe Davis and give us some more news. The schedule drops Wednesday. We'll be live Wednesday after the schedule drops, right before the Warriors game. We'll talk about it. We'll talk predictions and everything. And tomorrow I'll be live with Larry Tuesday night as always. So you guys have a good rest of your day. I love you. Go Niners. Have a beautiful Monday and have a good rest of your week. Boom. Go Dubs.